Hello, gorgeous people. Welcome to this channel that has been labelled a channel of HATE. I hate it when they do that. So, today we're talking about the win of Big Mr. T. And I'll tell you all about my thoughts on that. Talk about it on the other side. So I think there are various camps within our kind of team that we've got now. I like to call it a team, the truth seeker team. And some people are saying, look, he's not going to sort anything out. He's part of the problem. Politics is dead. Hey, I've got to, I resonate very much with that. Politics is not the answer. Then we've got other people who say, he's going to do something. He's going to take away the deep state. Okay. And then we've got other people who are kind of going, well, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm very much in that camp of, I don't know what's going to happen. Certainly from what I've heard, these statements that he's making about what he's going to do on day one, and then RFK talking about, I heard him talking about the trails that start with Kim. He was just outright talking about it, saying they're going to sort it out. So, let's see what happens. Goodness knows. Anything could happen. In this world at the moment, anything could happen. And I'm sure you would agree with me on that. But what I want to talk about is the win. The win. When I, and my wife as well, she was very, very, very jubilant when we found out on the morning that he had actually won. But I was very aware of why I was jubilant. Was it because I thought, that's it, all of our problems have been resolved and he's going to fix it all, Mr. Fix It, like not Jim will fix it, because that's something else. We don't really want one of them in our group, do we? But that wasn't why. And I think it's absolutely the biggest thing that's happened to our group in a long while. And the reason I say that is because we needed a win. Boy, did we need a win. We needed to know that we weren't alone. We needed to know that, hey, there's got to be more of us now, hasn't there? I've been saying this for yonks. People waking up all over, but, still the same shit was happening. Well, now we see that a very, very large proportion of American people have said, enough of this shit. Okay, now I don't know what state of awakening they're in, but I know a lot of them are like fully blown awakened. But the majority, and this is the important thing, the majority have said enough of this shit. Right? And that's a lot of people. I think 320 million people. So those who vote, a vast majority of them have said, no, not anymore. And I think that's what that did for me. Was it gave me a reassurance that we're on the right track, that enough people are waking up to what's going on. And I know, the evidence have been telling me since the beginning, we're in the Great Awakening. We haven't even seen, the big wave happening. But I think the big wave is starting to lift. It hasn't broken yet, but it's lifting. And that's why I think the win was so great. It isn't because I necessarily believe that politics is going to resolve the problem, because I don't. I definitely don't. I think it could be a good interim process if it were led by the right people. A good interim process. But in the long term, no, that's not what we want. We're going to self-govern and we're going to sort our own shit out. And they're going to deal with very small things. The things that we don't want to deal with, can't deal with, they're going to deal with. But living our lives and making our own rules, we are going to do that. That's how I see it going forward. So in the lead up to the elections, I've noticed that I was spending a lot of time watching stuff like you do, like just looking and seeing what the dickens was going on. And I saw Joe Rogan interview Donald Trump, and I saw Joe Rogan interview JD Vance. And I listened to both of them in their entirety whilst I was doing stuff, like 3 hours these interviews were. And what I noticed was this. When Joe Rogan was talking to Donald Trump, he couldn't pin him down at all. He was slithery. That's the word I would use. And he talked about weaving, all right? But there's weaving and the slithery. And so what I was aware of is that I didn't feel that we got to know who the real Donald Trump is, all right? That's just a sense. I didn't feel that closeness. I didn't feel that he was giving of himself completely. And I'll explain why I think that. Then I watched the J.D. Vance thing and I listened to him and I thought, wow, I am hearing the person. That's the person speaking. I've spent a lot of time, listening to people in therapy. I know when people are bullshitting me. I know because I know when they're not telling me who they really are and what's really going on, and I have to dig in. But I didn't get that with J.D. Vance. I just felt he was very in flow, very human. That was the word I would use. So getting back to why I believe that Joe Rogan couldn't pin Trump down, is because that man has spent how many years since he started running for president? He has spent God knows how many years being persecuted, being caught on every sound bite that he says, everything he says. He's had, in my opinion, an experience that would floor the majority of us. I don't think that I would have the strength to be able to put up with what he's put up with. I don't think I could do that. And I think the vast majority of us couldn't. He's obviously a special man. He's got special powers when it comes to carrying on despite. And I know that he has tremendous support, and I know he uses that as his crutch to get him through, the love and the support that he has from people. But I think it's no wonder that you can't pin him down. It's no wonder that you can't find who he really is, because he's got this biggest wall of protection around him. J.D. Vance hasn't been in the spotlight in that way. And so he's, perhaps one might say, in that political world, he's more naive. And so he's willing to hand himself over, whereas Trump isn't. What kind of person is the real Donald Trump? I have no friggin' idea. But I think generally the sense I get is that it's a good person, despite what many people think, despite what my parents-in-law think, because they only watch the TV. If people only watch the TV, they think he is the devil. Truly. I mean, they've done such a hatchet job on him. There's nothing that he has done that could be acclaimed as good, according to them. He is evil. Him and Putin. Both the same. Well, they're both the same. They're both friends. They sleep in the same bed, according to them. Anyhow. So I asked the emissaries about that, and I said, hey, what do you think? I said, I'm aware that I'm getting myself involved. I've never voted in my life, and I've never been interested. It wasn't that I disliked politics. I had zero interest in politics. However, given everything that's happened, it's put my attention on what is happening in the world, because the reason it's easy, as I was saying to my wife, it's easy not to be interested in politics when they don't affect you. When they get about doing their dirty deeds as they've always done and it's not affecting you. But when their behaviour starts affecting your freedoms, then you've got to pay attention. You've got to. Otherwise what's going to happen? They're going to do stuff and you're going to find out secondhand, and it's going to come as an awful surprise. So I said to the emissaries, hey, I've been watching more stuff. And they said, well, it's understandable. You're in 3D. It affects you. And I was talking about my impressions of, I said, if I didn't know any of the history and I listened to the thing with Trump, I wouldn't trust Trump. And then if I didn't have any impression, I would trust J.D. Vance, just from what I was, understanding the way that they came across. And the emissaries, in their inimitable fashion, said this. They said, just remember that everybody on this 3D plane is an avatar that is playing a role, that is playing out their role. everybody is an actor. And they said, nobody is real. These are exactly how they said it to me. And they said, and Gordon, you are not real. You are not Gordon Smith-Durán. That's not who you are. You're so much more than that. All that you're doing is you are working in this avatar. And they said, so when somebody comes across as not being genuine, that's just because that's the role that they're playing. And when somebody comes across as genuine, that's the role that they're playing. It doesn't make them good or bad or anything. It's just a role that they're playing. They said, when you come across as genuine, that's because that's your role. That's what you've chosen to do and to be. And they said, there is no Gordon Smith-Durán. And I got kind of a pet lip on, thinking, oh, it's not very nice. But it's the truth. That we read so much in. We've got to believe that this is real. We've got to. Otherwise, it's no fun. It doesn't make any sense. But at the same time, we've got to remember that all of this is just a facade. It's the Matrix. It's all pretense. And yes, you know, in the Matrix, you could get shot and hurt, and you would die. You would die on the machine that you're attached to. Well, the same applies here. Even though it's not real, even though this is just an avatar, you can still really get hurt. Physically, emotionally, spiritually, everything. But we must remember at all times that there is no you on this earth. There's only a you, whatever that is, beyond this. And all this is just a little role that you've written and been written into as well. I think that happens, you know, we get written into other people's shit. I've been written into some people, so much shit in other people's lives, and I think I've written other people into my shit as well. But that's all. So we mustn't take ourselves too seriously. We mustn't take the political world too seriously, and we mustn't take life too seriously. But yes, we needed a win, and it's great to know that we are many, and we are becoming many and many more by the moment, by the second, by the breath. I love you all, and I'll speak to you all later. Bye-bye.